Good morning. It is June 20. We have our regular Ottawa City Commission meeting this morning. We will start with the roll call, please.
Okay. Mayor Skidmore.
Present.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Present.
Commissioner Graves. Commissioner Wygand.
Present.
Commissioner Kaler.
Present.
We have a quorum here, and we will get started. First, I want to welcome everybody here in the commission room. Good to see a good crowd, and also listening on KOFO and on our Government Access channel. So we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by our Finance Director, Scott Bird.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, this community has certainly been blessed, and several of us heard that report last night of many blessings that are being poured out. I wanted to read just a quick scripture. This is from James chapter 1, verse 17. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. Let's pray. Lord God in heaven, we just praise your holy name, and we thank you for the gifts that you have poured out on this community. And we just ask that we continue to walk in your steps, that we may continue to be blessed. Help us use those gifts to your glory. We pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Scott. We will start with the consent agenda. We have the minutes from the June 4th study session, June 6th regular meeting, June 11th study session, along with the approval of new members to boards and commissions. This would be Tim Van Leeden to the OMA Advisory Board, as well as Chris Ramcharan, also to the OMA Advisory Board. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There is a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Move on to the regular agenda. Do we have any public comments? None registered. We'll move on to item number 10. It's a declaration. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. I think we're good there. Move on to item number, and this is an entry, item 11A is a proclamation proclamation by the mayor, read by our esteemed Commissioner Sarah Kaler.
Wendy.
And it is a great privilege for me to read this proclamation today. Whereas on June 30, 2018, Dr. Jeannie Stroh, Superintendent of Schools, will retire after serving the Ottawa USD 290 since 2013. Can you believe that? 2013, Dr. Stroh. Wow. So, had to interject that. I was excited about it. Whereas Dr. Stroh received Bachelor of Science degree in Early Childhood Education from NAU, Flagstaff, Arizona, a Master's degree in Educational Leadership from Kansas State University in 1997, and a Doctorate of Educational Leadership degree from Kansas State University in 2012. Whereas Dr. Stroh began her career teaching second grade in Parker, Arizona, and has served in many teaching positions, then as principal, director of student elementary education, assistant superintendent for student learning, and finally superintendent for the USD 290 district. Whereas Dr. Stroh, in her role as the first female superintendent in the USD 290, has worked tirelessly for the betterment of education and the community by leading a successful $63.1 million bond issue, which created a new elementary school, renovated each building in the district, including technology and infrastructure. And whereas Dr. Stroh, through her outstanding leadership, has increased the graduation rate, increased reading and math scores, implemented a Diploma +1 degree, and attained advanced ed accreditation. Whereas Dr. Stroh has been recognized with the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce Community Builder Award and with East Central Economic Opportunity Corporation Community Partner Award. And whereas Dr. Stroh has worked diligently to further education in Ottawa and the state of Kansas by being selected for the Kansas School Superintendent Association's Board of Directors, KASB Leadership Liaison Board, Franklin County Leadership Board of Trustees. And whereas Dr. Stroh, through her leadership, has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to all students and staff, ensuring equality, equity, and success to meaningful learning activities so that each child can graduate from Ottawa High School with the knowledge, skills, and behavior needed to hold sustaining employment. Because she knows that this is the greatest key to unlocking and stopping the cycle of poverty. And whereas Dr. Stroh has earned the admiration and respect of her colleagues, board, student, and community members in the USD 290 for her commitment, enthusiasm, professionalism, compassion, hard work, and unwavering determination to do what is right and needed for the children in our community. And therefore, be it the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby recognize the significant professional achievements of Dr. Jeannie Stroh and expresses their sincere gratitude for the contributions she has made to the USD 290 schools and community by recognizing Dr. Jeannie Stroh. Signed this the 20th day of June 2018 by our Mayor, Michael Skidmore.
Jeannie, you want to join me down here for a picture? We'd love to hear from you, especially that part of that.
know
page
it.
speak.
You bet.
Thank you so much. It has been my great honor to serve as the superintendent of this district for the last 5 years. There are so many things that were mentioned in this that certainly I have just been part of. I believe that my job as a leader is really more of a facilitator, and a facilitator means to make things easy. So I appreciate the work of each of you and this community in making the things that we've tried to do at USD 290 as successful as possible. When I came for an interview, I went on a little trip, a tour of the city, if you will, with Sarah Kaler. And one of the things that I was most impressed with as we drove around and talked was her commitment and the commitment of the city commission and the community really in improving education and improving everything in Ottawa so that the quality of life for our students and for grown-ups was as the best it could be. And so it has been my great honor, and I'm deeply grateful to have been part of that for the last 5 years. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Stroh. And I guess that's so much for that glass ceiling thing, right? That's good news. That's great. And don't forget, I-35 goes both ways between here and San Antonio. So come back sometime and see us. I'm sure you will. Love to have you back. Move on to item number 11.
Presentation of plaque for reliable public power provider designation.
The award is from the American Public Power Association, and I have that here. It does say Public Reliable Provider, City of Ottawa Electric Utility, Ottawa, Kansas, a gold member, not silver. This is gold, 2018 through 2021. And so, do we have do we have somebody here, or the whole group? We can. Oh, Dennis, come on up here. Have it.
I would like to start out and kind of kick this off. I told you that I would keep it short on Monday, but I'm not going to promise that today. I think what's important is that not only you all, but everybody in the room understand that this designation was something that was worked very hard to achieve, and it speaks to the highest degree about our electric utility in particular, but about our utilities overall. And as most of us know, our utility is one of our community's greatest assets. We hear the horror stories of what happens when municipals begin to sell off their utilities and what happens to their revenue streams and the kinds of actual devastation that it can cause. The commitment here in Ottawa has always been very good. to maintain and support our utilities, and I think this designation helps to reinforce the fact that not only do we have a utility, but we have one of the best utilities in the nation. I'm going to read a little bit here, and then I'm going to ask some of the folks that were most involved in the application process. I want everybody to understand that our utility is made up, electric utility is made up of about 20 people, and every one of those people and the things they've done not only in the past, but in the present, have contributed to our ability to achieve this designation. But there were some that put in quite a bit of extra time, and quite a bit's probably an understatement. But did yeoman's work in completing the application and doing the research to provide the information that was necessary for this to be achieved. Being recognized by the RP3 program demonstrates to community leaders, governing board members, suppliers, and service providers a utility's commitment to its employees, customers, and community. Additionally, an RP3 designation is a sign of a utility focused on operating an efficient, safe, and reliable distribution system. Currently, 254 of the nation's more than 2,000 public power utilities hold an RP3 designation, recognizing them for providing communities with the highest degree of reliable and safe electric. As you said, Mr. Mayor, we did achieve a gold designation. There are 3 designations, and quite honestly, after going through the process, I think we were all happy that there was. There's a gold, a silver, and a platinum designation. We achieved the gold designation, which can be considered the lowest. I believe the way that we looked at it is it gave us a reason and gave us the ability to grow our utility, to look at the things that maybe we don't do as well as we could and be able to make those all better. So there were 4 main categories involved in achieving this designation. And they are reliability, safety, workforce development, and system improvement. So at this time, I'm going to ask the folks, and they know who they are, to come up and talk about each one of those.
Great, let's do that.
Awesome. Who's first?
Thank you. As Dennis said, there's 4 categories that was looked at during this application process: reliability, safety, workforce development, and system improvement. I'll talk a little bit about the reliability. It goes deeper than the day-to-day service. Key elements of the reliability section include collecting and analyzing reliability data, having a mutual aid agreement, and implementing cyber and physical security. For the tracking outages, we subscribe to the American Public Power Association's Reliability Tracker. This tool allows us to enter our outage data, which includes the duration of the outage, the cause and repair of the outage, and how many customers were affected in the outage. At the end of the year, all the data is sent to APPA, and they compile the data and send us a report about our outages and reliability. Included in the report for 2017 is our efficiency of the distribution system to deliver electricity to our customers. Our efficiency is 99.964%. How long is the average customer out during an outage? Ours is 64.04 minutes. If all customers on the distribution system were without power the same amount of time, they would have been out 171.3 minutes. On the average, customers on the distribution system experienced 2.648 interruptions. Thank you.
Tell us who you are. We know who you are, but tell us who you are.
Oh, I'm David Hunsaker. I am the electric production superintendent.
Thank you, David.
Go ahead and identify yourself too.
I am Maggie Schmidt. I am warehouse clerk. A great deal of the application consisted of documenting types of workforce development that the city implements. To be a reliable entity also means that you plan for your city's future. During the application process, we were asked to show that we are aware of our need for succession planning. We have 10% of our workforce that will be retiring in 0 to 3 years and 8% that are qualified for retirement in 4 to 5. It is our responsibility to make sure we train our employees by shadowing, attending leadership programs, hiring replacements prior to departure, and sending our employees for future schooling so that they may be qualified for the key positions in the city. We want our positions to be attractive to potential and current employees, and to create that desire, we have to consider maintaining competitive compensation plans and recognize the hard work and dedication of our workers. The application asked us to show that we hold our employees to high standards and that we try to motivate each and every one with yearly personal and professional goals, as well as opportunities for advancement and trainings. We partner with local colleges for tuition reimbursement, encourage our employees to attend workshops, and gain new certifications to really develop our skills and workforce. They wanted us to show that these trainings could be seen across the board by our employees in the field or operations, at management level, office staff, and for brand new employees. They wanted us to show who we partner with as far as training. A few of these classes and workshops we attend are the Power Plant Operator online program through KMU and Flint Hills Technical College. Many KMU workshops, including power plant workshops, substation workshops, PLC workshop, watt-hour metering workshop, and cybersecurity workshop. Our office staff and other employees attend Fred Pryor career track workshops that include leadership training and Microsoft training, which all aids in our ability to be a reliable source. We have also hosted events, for example, the fiber optic training BDI and KMU substation work. We were asked to show that we are active participants in local communities and boards, in which we documented we have had members of the Kansas Municipal Utilities since 1979, Chamber of Commerce, and the Kansas Municipal Energy Agency. We were asked to show that we train and motivate our employees so that we may retain a positive, strong workforce, and that all of our employees will honor the sense of reliability.
Thanks, Maggie. Rocky?
Hi, I'm Rocky Evans, Electric Production Assistant Superintendent. In the RP3 application, you must demonstrate that you use an accepted safety manual and follow safe work practices across the utility. Utilities must create a culture of safety. Commitment to safety includes all aspects of operations, from generation to line work. Examples being monthly Kansas Municipal Utility Safety Training, in-house monthly safety audit, safety committee, qualifying workers program, in-house safety training, lockout tagout program, arc hazard assessment, monthly checklists for inspecting fire extinguishers, first aid kits, overhead cranes, AEDs, lights, flashlights, extension cords. I can go on and on. Safety practices are crucial to delivery of safe and reliable electricity for the employees and consumers. Thanks.
Let's give them a hand. That's great.
To wind this up, I would just say a couple of things. First of all, we can't say enough about how important it was that this was achieved, and what a great honor it is, not only for the people involved in this organization, but for the community to have this designation with their utility. The second thing that I would say is I would just brag on the community for just a minute. It's really easy to be negative when your power's out, or when your water's not working, or when something's wrong. Since I have come into this position, I believe that I'm finding that we have a pretty positive community. They are consistently, on our side, bragging about the efforts of these people sitting behind me, and I don't think you can ask more from a community than that. So I would brag on our community just a little bit to the end that if there is some negativity, it's usually well overshadowed by the positive statements that are made.
Very well said.
And beyond that, Mr. Mayor, I would ask the guys, gals that are here from the electric utility that we take a picture.
Please. But before you do that, let me just say, is there not an RP4 award? I mean, I would certainly think you ought to earn that, but I guess 3 is as high as they go
There's
right
none.
there for now. But let me just say, too, I've been in countries where they've had rolling blackouts, and most people in this town don't even know what that is, or nor would they
Exactly.
appreciate it if they lived through that. And we went through a storm here about a week ago, and we just thank you and your crew for doing an excellent job of bringing power back on quickly. Other communities around us didn't enjoy that privilege like we did, and I know you're committed to that crew. And thank you also for the continuing education importance you've put, Dennis, in your programs. I think it's critical that we keep continuing education for all the departments, and especially yours. So I appreciate that very much. And I know you would be the first one to admit this is a team effort, this award. So yes, let's bring everybody
Absolutely.
up here and let's get a picture with this award.
Come on, folks.
Hold that up there. There you go. Hold that up high. There you go.
Come on, gentlemen.
Squeeze, squeeze.
Squeeze.
We love each other, don't we? That's right.
Cheese.
Excellent. Let's give them all a hand again. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
I guess you left someone back there to run the power plant still, right, Dennis? Okay.
We're
The
good.
lights are on. Okay, we're good. Okay, we're not on battery power. That's good. All right. That's great. Thanks a lot, guys, for everybody, ladies and gentlemen, for being here for that. We'll move on to item number 12.
Overview of stormwater projects.
Michael Hafley and Casey is both here, so
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Casey and I are here to give another overview of the 2 projects that we're wanting to get financed in the next item, but thought it'd be worth giving another presentation so everybody can see it again. Do I just hit the power button or what? Right arrow. Okay. So the 2 projects that we've lined out for this bond issue are 15th Street and Ash Street. The 15th Street project, as some of you may be aware, we have a ponding issue around the 500 block of East 15th when it rains. Typically when that happens, we have to go out and close the street for a while to wait for the water to drain out and disappear. It's just real slow there. There's a low spot in the street that was somehow designed for that. I'm not sure why that happened many years ago, but by putting inlets in there in that low spot and running a new line down 15th Street from Cedar to that location, putting a manhole, and then bringing it back across the street of 15th will definitely allow us to get rid of that water in a faster area. Currently, the pipe that runs from Cedar down 15th is too small for what we're trying to capture now. So the other part of that project will be putting in a bigger line to accommodate the runoff that we're trying to capture. I'll turn it over to Casey to talk the engineering piece of it.
So this aerial, or Casey Culver and Bartlett and West, we were the consultant hired to do the stormwater design. As you can see from the aerial shown here, this is the drainage area that is impacted by this project. This portion of the project is broken into 2 phases. What's in front of you today is just the first phase of the project. As we discussed before, when you do stormwater improvements, you start downstream and work up, so that you're always it'll be beneficial from day one. So the main part of the project, there's the 14th Street is a terrace back there that there's a little creek that outlets. That's where the project really starts at. There is a culvert underneath Mulberry. We're not touching that. but everything dumps in right west of that. If you drive down Mulberry, you see a large area inlet out there in a yard. It pretty much cuts through the backyards and then heads south out to 15th Street. So this portion of the project, most of it is along 15th Street. Big goal of this project was not to remove any of the sidewalk that was built, or remove as little as possible. The existing trunk line for this is underneath 15th Street, underneath the eastbound lane. So work will actually be out in the lane of traffic. 15th Street though is wide. We should be able, for most times, to keep up two-way traffic, especially since there are sidewalks there now, that people walking and bikes will have a place to go if we have to use that wider area. There will be some sidewalk removed when we cross sidewalk. We'll have to tear it out, but it'll be replaced. And then a few places where we're putting curb inlets in, we might have to adjust it just to get the curb inlet in there and then re-pour the sidewalk. But the goal was to leave as much as possible. A benefit of, as Mike said, with this project is to help with flooding, but also helps with, there's pretty much no curb inlets from 15th Street to 13th Street in this area. This will allow for, for other improvements to be made and help with flooding throughout this entire drainage basin. Any questions on the 15th Street portion?
So Casey, I guess when you talk about flooding, I mean, if we had a really heavy rain, there could be houses impacted by this as it sits today.
Yes. So with flooding, the storm is designed for what they call a 10-year storm, kind of a 10% chance to hold that within the pipes. Our streets are designed with curb and gutter to hold a flooding event within the right-of-way. So what we try to do with this is there are houses currently now that if it floods enough that it could jump the curb and go towards their driveways and towards garages and houses like that, where right now with this project we want to eliminate that and give the water somewhere to go to where there's a natural swale, or it's staying within the right-of-way and not using a bypass that could go through somebody's house.
That's good. So it's more than just a nuisance. It could be a damaging effect
Yes.
on people's homes, the taxpayer or something. Okay, thank you, Casey.
Okay, we'll move on to the Ash Street project. If any of you have ever driven down Ash Street, you'll notice that there's no curb inlets south of 3rd Street. So the goal here is to add more curb inlets so that we can capture the water and control where it's going, rather than going around intersections back to the alleys and flowing out that way to the north. Some of the issues with Ash Street currently is the curbs on that street are inadequate at best. They're crumbling, they're falling apart. The street's been overlaid multiple times, and the overlays have gone clear out to the edge of the gutter, which leaves us no gutter there. So when we replace or install the storm sewer pipe, we'll be replacing all the guttering there too. So that will be a good improvement there. I think the inlets will be installed from 2nd Street all the way to 7th Street. So we'll have a way to capture water in each block of that street. So, and with that, unless there's questions for me, I'll turn it over to Casey.
So too, with this project is kind of outlining the drainage area. There's a lot that drains to 2nd Street right there in front of the police station. Currently though, once it gets down to approximately 3rd Street, it goes east a half a block and then drains down the alley. And it's draining through people's backyards. There are small culverts back there. It creates a lot of issues. There is a culvert that goes under 2nd Street that collects a good chunk, almost like 3 blocks to the east of it, and then all the way to 7th Street. And if anybody's ever driven by that, it floods in that area. The water actually drains down 2nd Street, then drains back to the south, into the culvert, then back north under the road. So what we're doing here is we're trying to help alleviate that. We're rerouting stormwater. There is currently 2 curb inlets on the in front of the police station that were built were installed when the police station was constructed. we will be tying into those. That the pipe that connects that to the channel just east of the police station is sized adequately to handle this rainfall. So we'll be tying into that, bypassing the ditches that are in the backyards, in the alleys, and also bypassing the culvert that is going on 2nd Street. So our goal is to keep as much water off of 2nd Street as possible for these 10-year events. As Mike said, we're redoing the curb and gutter. There will be some areas that we're redoing pavement where we're putting curb inlets on both sides, but the scope of the project is curb and gutter and then pretty much back to the sidewalk. With this project, the trunk line will be running behind the east side of the sidewalk. It won't be out in the lane of traffic like 15th Street, so a lot of the work will be happening from the gutter line to the sidewalk. Driveways will be replaced with this project because the trunk line will be going through those. They'll be built to city standard, but up to the sidewalk. Driveways won't be built up to the house. It'll be built up to the sidewalk and tie in with the existing sidewalk there. There will be some ADA ramps that are updated because we're doing work around intersections, and then intersections will be valley gutters will be installed to help that water keep on going instead of coming around a corner and just kind of ponding. And everybody, I think, sees that, and so we're trying to help it work as efficiently as possible. We've also, we didn't mention with 15th Street, but both these projects, we've been working with Dennis and other city members to make sure that utilities, sewer lines, water lines, everything like that, that we're not impacting. If they're impacting, the city is knowing ahead of the time that they are aware of this project, the utilities are, of what needs to be done, if we need to update service lines, stuff like that. So this project, they're both kind of the same concept, but a little bit different. With this one, there'll probably be a little bit more traffic impact, as we discussed, that this is a route to school, to multiple schools, that this will have a little bit heavier traffic control. Timing of the project is probably going to be more important, just based on the amount of space and what's all used here. With both these projects, we've talked with Richard, is that there will be a public involvement of notifying the public, having an open house of some sort to talk about this, and also probably talk about rerouting people of, hey, this is what's going to be happening. This is going to be an easier route for this period of time, and this would probably also be published in the newspaper, just notifying people that construction is going to begin, and that if you can go a different route, it'll probably be quicker at the time. Any other questions, comments?
Well, Casey, I appreciate your concern for the traffic flow and the timing on all that. I appreciate that. The question I have is on most of the work will be done on the terrace side. You say to be on the west side of Ash?
East side of Ash.
East side of Ash, okay.
There will be some work on the west side, but on the east side we had less conflicts.
Okay.
And the west side, as you go farther north, has steeper slopes.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that. Yeah.
There's some old concrete steps in that area.
Yeah.
It was a little bit, and I think a lot of the utility poles are also on that. So the east side had the lowest impact to other infrastructure that is already in place.
And do you know will it involve much tree removal, or is that going to be an issue?
There will be some. They'll probably. I can't comment on that because I don't know how many. I think there's a little bit, but nothing. We're trying to save as many trees as possible.
That's good.
And I think through that area, a lot of them are on the private side of the sidewalk and not within the right of way.
Okay, good. Anybody have any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
I do have another comment here, Mayor. This project both of these projects were included in the stormwater master plan that was put together about 10 or 12 years ago. So in trying to get something started with stormwater projects, we looked at that list and that list of projects that was put together and made a decision as to how we can affect and improve our stormwater system in town the most effective way. So
I appreciate a lot of time and money spent working on this project, hours. So thank you, Michael, and thank you, Casey, for your work on this. Before we move to the next item, we want to get a picture with Dr. Jeannie Stroh. Could you be so honor us, please? Maybe up here by the state flag, and we can get a picture with you. But I know you have to be going to your next meeting here shortly.
Standing up.
Yeah. Over here by the state flag. How about? You can show this to all your Texas friends.
Right. Yes. Maybe you have to hold the Kansas
Stand right
flag.
in front of it here. Go ahead. Good? Great.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Memorial.
So much.
Yes, you bet.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'm going to give you back your chair.
That's good. I'll take it. We'll move on to item number 13.
Request for approval of ordinance authorizing the city to make stormwater improvements and authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds.
Bonds will be issued in the amount of $2.2 million for the purpose of the stormwater improvements in 2 locations within the city. And we've already had that presentation, so Tyler, you're next on the agenda, I guess.
Good morning.
It's good we do it in this order, I guess, right?
It is.
Okay.
It's a logical order. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Tyler Ellsworth with the law firm of Kutak Rock, the city's bond counsel. As we discussed briefly at Monday's study session, the ordinance that you're being requested to approve this morning authorizes bond financing for the storm sewer improvements that were just outlined. It also, the ordinance authorizes the city to reimburse itself from the proceeds of a tax-exempt bond issue that we have scheduled to close this fall. And Dave Arterberry, with the city's financial advisor, is here to give you a brief overview of what that financing entails. So,
Okay. David?
Thank you, Tyler, and good morning, everyone. David Arterberry again with George K. Bauman Company. As Tyler mentioned, we have a bond issue scheduled for later this year that would provide funds to finance the cost of the stormwater project. In addition to that project, the city also has a temporary note that was issued back in 2016 to fund land acquisition out at the new industrial park. So our plan would be to do 2 bond issues, 2 series of bonds to be sold simultaneously later this year. One series for the stormwater and the other series for the land acquisition. The stormwater bonds would be repaid by funds generated from the stormwater utility, and the bonds issued for the land acquisition would be paid back from the sales tax that was passed for the development of the industrial park. The schedule that we're on right now for the bond issue is today represents sort of the first step where you complete the project authorizations. You officially authorize the stormwater project. You already authorized the land acquisition project back in 2016. The next step is scheduled to occur in August, where the city would adopt what we call a go-to-market resolution. You officially authorize bonds to be sold. And that's, again, scheduled at your August 15th meeting. The actual sale of the bonds would then occur, according to our schedule, on about September 18th. And then at your meeting on September 19th, you would receive the results of the sale and take the third and final step, which is actually to pass the final bond ordinances and resolutions to lock in the interest rate. So a lot of steps would occur sort of behind the scenes between now and then, but that's the general schedule we're on. And then closing of the issue would occur on October 10th. That's when the proceeds for the stormwater project would be received, and also the old temporary notes would be paid off.
So the purpose of the 2 issuances was that they're 2 different purposes, and they're respectively paid by different sources of revenue. But also, one is bank qualified, one is not. Is that
correct? It's actually not bank qualified, but one of the projects doesn't qualify to as a tax exempt borrowing under the federal tax code. The land acquisition, because the proceeds, or because some of that land could ultimately be sold or given to a for-profit company, the federal tax code doesn't allow you to issue tax-exempt bonds for that purpose. And if you have more questions about that, I'll defer to Tyler on it. But the other project, the stormwater, is eligible for tax-exempt financing. So that's the primary reason we have two series. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Actually, I have a foundational question, and this may be more of a Scott Bird question than either one of you two gentlemen. But if you are, per se, a Dave Ramsey kind of guy or gal, and you believe that you should just use the money that you have to spend what you have and only do that, tell me why we should do this instead, and why it's important for an individual, or actually for this entity, to go ahead and move through and issue these bonds.
Sure.
In lieu of waiting.
I can sort of give you my opinion on
Sure.
that, and then I'll defer Scott wants to
absolutely.
somebody else.
It's fine.
I fully appreciate and understand the approach that Dave Ramsey takes to personal finances. And the reason I wanted to say personal finance is because we're not talking about personal finance here, we're talking about governmental finance. And you're talking about projects, the stormwater project and the industrial park, that are hopefully going to be enjoyed, the benefits of those projects be enjoyed by the citizens of the community for decades to come. And if you were to basically cash fund these projects, save up enough money to pay for them now, essentially what you're doing is putting the entire burden of payment for those projects onto the taxpayers now, when you're going to have generations, hopefully, of taxpayers enjoying the benefit. So by borrowing for these projects, you really, I think you could argue that you are more equitably spreading the cost of these projects across the ultimate users and beneficiaries of it. So, sort of my opinion.
And I've got a question that for Mr. Neinstead or Mr. Bird as well. These projects that we're paying for the stormwater utility, the 15th Street and the Ash Street projects, were part of a study, as Michael had mentioned, that was done about 10 years ago, in identifying the greatest needs of the community. So they had been identified some time ago, and these were the two of the highest priority projects in that survey or that study. And this particular the payment of the stormwater utility is going to use about a quarter of the revenue from the stormwater utility. So it leaves room for 60 to 75% of the revenue that's generated by the utility for other projects, so that we can go deeper into that list. And is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner. And I think what you also want to understand is there are many projects in that study that was done 10, 14 years ago. There's some big number of projects on there, and what we tried to do was look at the ranking, what we could do, what was low-hanging fruit, what could we, because one of the reasons we established the stormwater utility was to start addressing some of these projects without having to go to the general tax base. So what you said was all correct. This is a very visible project. We're going to be in very close touch with the citizens that are affected by this. And it's not just the neighborhood that's affected. The storm sewer just ties in all over the community. So that's a very good summary, and there's a little bit of additional information.
So there's going to be more to come.
Well, yes, there will be more to come. But we're trying to manage this because I had the experience before I went to another community. They established a stormwater utility, and they did one big project. And that project actually didn't pay off until after I left the community. And the point I'm getting to is that they weren't able to use that for other projects also along the way. So it was an important project. It needed to be done, but what we don't want to do is tie up all that money when we have education to do and we have EPA compliance. And we have just some maintenance projects we have to do also.
I'm kind of got a question as well as a comment. I think some of the engineering was paid for already out of the current funds. And then the project is going to start before the bonds are funded, right? When will the project start?
Well, I'm going to let Mr. Colburn, not your father, but you, Casey. I'm going to let Mr. Colburn walk you through the procedure for us securing bids, and what we hope is that it's at about the same time, because we need that number when we go the bid to actually tell Tyler and Dave what it is the amount of those bonds have to be. So could you go through that?
Because I was just wondering if it got started, then we would be reimbursed, as we would make payments before we got bonded.
Well, that's a good point, and part of the reason for you to pass this resolution is that if we do anything before we get the bonds, we do get reimbursed for it.
Okay.
But if you would just take them through the...
So with the bidding of the project, we can kind of control the date of when it starts. You could honestly, we don't have the bid document set up yet because we were waiting for where we were going and what projects we're going to be picked and choose. So honestly, we can work to put the bid documents together, and you could bid it this summer, but you could still have a start date, farther down the road that aligns with your bonds. We'd probably wait a little bit. We'd try to push that off because you're going to have, if you have, there's been talk about different options of pipe. Pipe prices change. So if you bid too early, people are going to probably be a little bit more safe and not give you a very tight bid. Now, if we have a hard date, we can back that out probably 6 weeks from when that starts. We're going to get very, very competitive prices that those contractors are going to be able to lock in with their suppliers. Depending on price of steel, what's all going on right now, if there's asphalt involved with this project, that might be something that gets put off till the spring. We can do concrete work about any time of the year. Any type of asphalt work, we need to be above a certain temperature. And depending on Kansas, we could do that. But the asphalt plant usually closes down for a period of time over the winter. So, but we could bid it. It's also going through, there's been discussions of, do we bid 2 projects? Do we bid 1 project with 2 phases? Having those comments, it sounded like the other day it was more of, let's bid 2 separate projects, and if somebody gets both of them, they get both of them. But it's talking about the schedule of how we want to do it. Ash Street, how we don't want to hinder school access, stuff like that. But that could all be written into the contract documents when it goes out to bid. The process is, we usually like to leave 3 to 4 weeks to get the bids together, advertise it publicly, probably do, there would be a pre-bid meeting to go over the contractor to talk about some of these key items, some of their questions, and then have the bids. And by the time you receive them, all their bonding gets in place and stuff. You usually have about a month or so before they can move forward with the work. But we don't want to bid it too early for them to start it, because we want to get the most competitive prices. There's been talk about using this as a project that could have a different type of pipe in it. But pricing on materials right now are jumping significantly as the quarter goes. So a contractor is not going to lock in something for 5 months down the road before construction. Does that answer your question, Tom?
Yeah, but give me another one.
Okay.
The $2.2 million, is that an engineer's estimate for the total project, or where does that come in if the bids come in higher, or what are we bonding?
So we looked at it in a few different ways. One, we used prices that Bartlett and West has found on other projects in Topeka, Lawrence to compare with. The other one, we used just a contractor's database of what they're seeing. Bartlett and West has in-house project management, so we worked with them. And then 2, we reached out to local contractors and asked them what they're seeing for pipe prices now, and used those. We used all that, and then we also kept a contingency on there to help cover some of those inflation that's happening more on a quarter-by-quarter basis instead of a yearly basis, is what we're seeing. So try to look at it from different angles, and the engineer's estimate never wants to be the low bidder, but it is an estimate right now, and construction prices are changing, but we try to be confident in it that it covers all aspects and will help in some of that inflation. Mike, do you have anything else to add to that? Yeah.
But the 2.2 million will be the bond issue, whether we use it or not, or it's.
What we would do is, with the schedule we're on, we're going to need to size the bond issue, officially size the bond issue, probably the first week of September. So by that point in time, hopefully we'll have a really good handle on what that project cost is. So if it comes in under $2.2 million, then we'll simply downsize the bond issue and only sell $2.1 million. If it comes in over $2.2 million, then we have to have a different discussion, because at that point you'd only authorized $2.2 million. So we've got some time here in which to establish the ultimate bond issue size, and I expect it will be different than the $2.2 million estimate is right now. How much different will depend on the bids. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Scott, were you going to address those, or is that your answer? Okay. Maybe we already got it answered, but
I think everyone's covered that very well.
All right.
I might mention that, as I did on Monday, that the city has been building a cash carryover in this fund. So right now it has about $1 million in it, and in anticipation of this event, we had looked at the possibility of doing 3 projects or maybe even 4 projects, but from the Dave Ramsey approach, it looked like 2 approaches today is the right methodology, and in the future, then we would anticipate continuing to grow that fund as we see more development throughout the community. We will have more stormwater revenue coming in. So that was the only thing that I wanted to add.
very good. All right. Thank you, Scott. Any other discussion on this? I'll entertain a motion for item number 13.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner.
I move that we approve the ordinance authorizing the city to make stormwater improvements and authorizing the issuance of GOB bonds in the amount of $2.2 million.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any other discussion? If not, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
I vote yes too. Motion carries. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate you both being here. Someday I hope we can have just an all-day conference, talk about bonds and interest rates and debentures. And couldn't we do that, Sarah?
No.
No?
I don't think I've ever heard something.
No. Yes.
Laura will be there, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for all your work on this, and for Scott and Casey, Michael, good job. So thank you. Move on to item number 14.
Request for approval of ordinance establishing a permitting process and requirements for ice cream vendors.
This ordinance outlines application requirements and establishes certain restrictions for ice cream trucks. And I guess Laurel's going to talk to you about this.
All right. Okay, so the first part of this ordinance allows licensing of ice cream vendors. Previously, we had no license allowing any sale on public property without a special event permit. So this will set some requirements for ice cream vendors, so we're not blocking traffic, so they're not staying for over about 5 minutes. We'll have sanitation expectations. It'll be $25 for the entire year. It won't be prorated. The second part is it's amending the current code. We're taking out the language for the itinerant vendor references in anticipation of the new mobile food vendor license ordinance.
And just be sure everybody understands, this is not the same thing as the food vendor truck we've been talking about this week, right? Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner.
I move to approve the ordinance as described in item 14 of the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second. Any other discussion on that? If not, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Commissioner Kaler?
I like ice cream. Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes, absolutely.
Mayor Skidmore?
And I vote yes, too. Motion carries, and this will be effective
Immediately.
today, I guess, once this gets signed. So we can tell our vendor he's ready to go then. All right.
Thank you.
all.
So,
City Manager.
Mrs. Gimzo, was that your first presentation to the city commission?
Yeah.
Good
It
job.
was.
Hey, you got it
job,
passed. You're
Laurel.
1 for 1. Congratulations.
So this is, it was an exciting evening last night. It's been an exciting day tonight. And I was sitting here thinking as Jeannie was talking about being here 5 years ago, and I was thinking about the scripture that Scott shared with us about blessings. And I want you to think about this. We had a presentation today. We've all been working on how do we get the people we train here that go to school here come back to the community and be involved. And I want you to think about, we have Casey Colburn standing here, and it is nice to call him Mr. Colburn. I mean, you all, a lot of you know him a lot more than I did, and but it is just nice that part of what Casey has been able to do with his career is to come back and assist his hometown and do that. And we're very proud of you, Casey, so thank you very much. I think about the last 5 years, the good works of Wendy Lee when it comes to the parks and the Play Task Force and a number of you, and look at where we've gone with the parks and the quality of life in this community because of Wendy's hard work, a lot of people's hard work, donations. The private is we have a real true public-private partnership. We've been able to get grants. We would not have been able to be in the Kaboom office in March in Washington, D.C. if it hadn't been through that. We have a police department that has a major certification. We now have a power utility that has a major certification. And that is because of the hard work of our employees, who are not only employees of the community, but they are citizens of this community. And I am so very proud of them. They get up every day, just like you do, sitting in your seats, and ask what is best for the citizens. How can we make this community better? And every public policy decision we make, we ought to ask the question of ourselves always, is this the best public policy for our community? And then we have Proximity Park. 5 years ago, we were kind of talking about that, and we had a number of agencies and a number of citizens involved in that, and we've moved that ahead. We've had we've had a successful sales tax vote. We've had several successful in the communities, and then we have what we experienced last night. Now think about that. The room was filled at the Bottle House. Again, it's because of work from you and from our staff on that project and a number of other groups that we are partners with. And it's about the vision of the city, and it's about the quality of life, and it's about legacy squared. And it's about companies that have been here that have appreciated the relationship they had with the community. And it is an opportunity for them to give back, so it's part of their legacy. And how many communities, over the course of my years, I was trying to think how many times the governor has come out and been the featured speaker at a major project, and I can think of 2 besides this one in the last 38 years. So the governor's here, the secretary's here, but more importantly, in that room, we had citizens of this community that believe in this community, that get up and work hard for this community, that have been asked to contribute something, and their dream is even bigger than ours. So it is a time to celebrate, and we should celebrate. And it is our honor to serve our community, and we just hope that the legacy we leave is what makes people to continue to feel proud about the city of Ottawa. So there you go. That's my homily for today.
I think that's great, and I'm also pleased and proud that Casey's involved in Ottawa, as well as his parents have been involved, as long as I know. But also our leader of public utilities, Dennis Tharp, is a graduate of Ottawa University. He stayed here, worked here, had his own business before he came with the city. Now has done a great job with the electric utilities and the water department. So those that stay here and work here and succeed here, we just can't get enough of and appreciate enough.
Good.
So that's it.
Good. All right. Commissioner comments. Tom, you want any more to add to that?
That's it.
You're good. Blake?
I just want to thank the work of several in this community to put on our 4th of July fireworks show on the 1st of July. It was alarming 2 years ago when we heard that the person that shoots them off was going to retire from doing that, and alarming last year when we reiterated that. And as it got closer and closer to the 4th, other people learned about it, even though it's been talked about for some time. So I appreciate the work that the city has done in order to find somebody to shoot them off, and the work that's being done to ensure that it happens in the future. So good job to our city staff in working on that.
Good. Thank you, Blake. Sarah?
Wonderful comments today, and I would join in all of those comments with you. I do want to personally thank Dr. Stroh for her leadership here in this community. It has been a privilege to work alongside with her and to call her my friend. I also want to give thanks to Rex Carswell, who has for years given of his time and really given of his 4th of July evening and several hours before that, and his family to celebrate Independence Day with us. So Rex, we hope that you have a quiet 4th of July and an opportunity to rest and relax. You deserve it. Last thing, we have a couple really wonderful things that have happened in our community in the last week. We had last Friday the grand opening of the historic post office, and for those who might have missed that, and I don't know how you would have missed it. It seemed like everybody was there, but maybe you missed it. It is a beautiful, beautiful opportunity that had come to some individuals who really saw potential in our community and took and gave much of their time and treasure to renovating a really great grand building, which will stand strong for many years to come because of the work that they have done. So if you've not seen the historic post office, please go by and do so. It is absolutely gorgeous. And lastly, Legacy Square, which is I know that our mayor will highlight many of that, but I'm proud to be a part of that initiative. Last thing I do want to do is thank our utility crews, our Power Works Department, the Ottawa Fire Department, and the Ottawa Police Department for all of the hard work that they did when we had such a terrible storm. Many of us were lucky to stay in our homes, and several of us only lost power for a few minutes, and that was great. And that was not without the hard work of those crews, and I appreciate it. And we are certainly the gold standard in utilities. And I know that when I talk to individuals across the state of Kansas, we are blessed to own our own utility. So thank you. And I think that will wrap it up, but I will never call you Mr. Colburn, ever, Casey Colburn, ever.
That's right.
It's wrong for the babysitter to call Casey, right?
Yeah,
Mr. Colburn,
I would
right?
agree with that. I would agree with that. Well, yes, Legacy Square, that was a fantastic adventure last night to have the governor here, and for him just to personally come to me and talk about how much the Ottawa's doing and what's going on here, and it is exciting. He's right. I mean, there's a lot going on in this small community of ours. He had just come from a big event in Lenexa earlier that day, and that was big too, but he really compared this to similar for something to be excited about. And so it was good to hear him talk, and for the secretary as well to be there. So we had a great crowd, a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, and certainly it was a great event. So I'm glad we did that. And I think we're on the home stretch as far as fundraising goes. We're getting closer, so I think it's going to make a reality. But it'd be a fantastic event place once it's all done. We also have the joint city-county USD 290 luncheon today. We have the city employee retiree pool party. Actually, you know what? My Speedo's at the cleaners, so I'll be in street clothes so as not to scare the women and children. Yeah, so, okay, so.
I'll be in the city later,
Okay.
probably tomorrow. I could pick one up.
Well, no, thank you. I don't think
Okay.
it'll be necessary.
Just want to help.
And I do want to add one more department of our city that's award-winning. It's our IT department. Congratulations, gentlemen. A 9-state event. I think you got the award there for that. Great. So good job, you guys. We don't want to forget you. I think all the departments have gotten some kind of award except the city commission, and we'll work on that. But that's next, so we'll get that happening here. So, but anyway, if we have nothing before the city commission meeting today, we are adjourned.